Just trying if the lecture is okay. Yeah. I hope everyone can hear me. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So, today we are at the final stage of our course. So, how to write your literature review, that is ending with the dissemination of the whole course. So, dissemination of your paper, dissemination of the work that you have been working as a part of your course that is linked to your PhD topic. So, as we have mentioned that you have to come up with a literature review paper as an output of this course, which is also required or even beneficial for your PhD thesis. So now, what we will be following in this class is to give you a sort of tips of how to write this literature review paper. Some of you may have already done it or may have some clue before, but it's always a good practice that you know again and polish yourself to submit and work on your literature review report that you're going to show us on 10th of December. So when you're writing your literature review paper and showing us on 10th of December, you need to be coming up with the topic of what are you studying. So this can be focused on your PhD topic and what are you trying to find from there. And then your paper should have the abstract that is summarizing your work. Some of you, if you have already published a research peer review journals or conference papers, articles, of course, you have the idea of how to write an abstract. Some of you who haven't done it yet, so it's basically giving you the context objective, how you have done the study, the results and conclusion, maybe in 150 words to 200 words, depends from the journal or the conference requirements, how they would like to see the abstract. Introduction, that's what you need to write. Related work, so you can think of as a background or the literature review, what you have been going through. Methodology, so make sure that you have the research question and the objectives or the research process, everything is there. And results, what you have found, discussion, and the conclusion. So this is sort of the agenda today, what we are talking about. And then let's go and see what we can discuss more about that. Okay, so I already have given you a sort of hints about what to write in the abstract. Um, Typically, when I write my abstract, yes, what I try to follow a few sentences about the problem, highlighting my research question, connecting the problem, and how am I going to solve it? So the research method. If I am using this systematic literature review, I am just adding, okay, this systematic mapping study I have used, and the result of the study have come up with this number of papers, and it's showing this kind of results. That's how I am writing the abstract. If you go to some journals, they have their own ways of writing the abstract. Let's say the abstract they are dividing into few sections. Starting from the problem to objectives, the and the method and the results. So basically, even in the method or even in the results, they want you to write few sentences. So in that case, you have to do that as well. So it's not that much difficult, but sometimes, yeah, it's challenging that you are writing in very few sentences. So think it like this way, that your abstract is the extended version of what you are thinking in the context of your topic. So extend your PhD topic into the abstract. Okay, now I have come to this related work slide. But before that, there was something I was also telling you about the introduction. So the introduction before the related work is pretty much important because where you are submitting your research question, and pretty much I would say the introduction is the extended version of your abstract. So if we go in this slide and what we have mentioned into the introduction, the motivation to your study, the background, and the objectives or the extension of the abstract that we are thinking. Normally, I write my research question at the end of the introduction and how I'm going to answer those things and trying to make a linkage of the background and why the study is important, why it's in the topical field, and why it is required to do it. Now, after the introduction, different people are writing in different names. A related work with the words we understand is the related work is what the people have done. Some authors might be using the name as background. Some authors may also be using the name as literature review. So three different keywords, but meaning the same. So in the related work or literature review or background, basically you are giving us the description of what has been done before. And at the end of those, what is the research gap? So because you have gone through with some existing works, and based on that, you have found out some research gap or some study that needs to be addressed. And those study that needs to be addressed had been highlighted by those related works. And that gap is linking up your present study, which is your paper is focusing on. So imagine you're writing your literature review paper and why you have taken that. You go through with the literature's existing related work and it didn't answer those things that you're looking on. And that's why you are coming up with your literature review and to further answering those things. But now you know what you need to be addressing and what you need to answer. But then the question comes, how you will do it. And that how thing is connected with the methodology. Connecting with the research question. So the research process review plan. So into the methodology, you can write, if you're using, let's say, systematic literature review, SLR, then you can just describe how we have been going through with the systematic literature study, um, how you have excluded the data, included the data, how many papers you have gone through, how, and even the diagram. So let's say if you're using the Prisma diagram as a part of this methodology, you can use it. It's always good that you add some research process diagram. So it's easy and it looks nice, good for the reviewers as well as good for the readers of your paper, that they know the steps that you have been going through. And the Prisma diagram, if that is somehow um, connected with your method that you're focusing on. So, and then you are, once you have done with this method, so what do you need to write into your methodology? Let's say you have found out that you have been going through with 100 papers and then you have followed um, some tools to search and the papers that is required. And then after doing all this analysis, you have found out, you can see on this slide diagram on the left side, this number of papers that you have found out, and based on this SLR, and on the right side you can see the number of papers that has been published in a few years. Not necessarily you have to add the left or even the right side diagrams, but it's always good that you add some at least diagrams that you have they have found out from your papers. Some literature review even also focusing on some keywords, and they are highlighting that this papers is highlighting this number of things and that number of things. Then once you have the results of your study that you would like to achieve, you are actually writing your discussion. So the lesson learned from your results simply, the discussion could talk about what um, did you learn from the results and what can you propose, and you can of course come up with some of your ideas that could be done into highlighting the research gap and what you have found from the results, and giving some directions, some guidelines, some proposals to the next studies. So sort of summarizing what your results has come up, and maybe we can come up with some sections describing those, connecting those even with some existing references of what you have come up with your results. And then you come up with the conclusion. Okay, so even though into the slides it's written that unanswered question or future direction that you have to highlight, what I do, it depends actually. Different people are using different um, tactics. What I do is to put the limitations and future work at the end of discussion by making different sections and giving the description of those as well. So it's up to you guys. You can add your limitation and future work into the discussion, or even you can add it to the conclusion. So conclusion is pretty much the summarize of what you have done into the study in your literature review paper. So to be conclude, from the abstract to the conclusion, what we have lectured today, this is only not valid for your literature review paper, but this is also a pretty much good format example of how to write a research paper in general. So we just need to be following those to come up with our workshop practice based on your literature review paper on 10th of December. So this is pretty much the end of the conclusions, what you need to write. Then the comes about the referencing. Of course, you have been doing this referencing for a while. But then again, just to let you know, um, it's important that what type of referencing you're focusing. Let's say in some journals you're submitting your work, they do not ask for any particular reference model to follow. They have a free format at the initial submission. If your journal is accepted, then maybe in the second level or third round, they will ask you to follow their format. So what I do is actually when I submit into the free-format journal for a publication, I try to follow this Harvard referencing because it's sort of giving the details of the authors and the years so that um, the reviewers or even the journal committee or the editors, they know that I have followed or even added the important works or even most recent works from the literatures. Otherwise, if I'm just only adding number one, two, three, four referencing, um, it might be difficult for them to follow, excuse me, while reading the main body of the paper. So it's a much smart way to provide this Harvard referencing if they don't ask for any format. If they are asking for some format, then of course we should follow those. Now, thinking of your literature review work or the thing that you need to deliver as a part of the course, make a publication template for the course page. So then you start with the abstract, add your introduction, background as well, add your methodology and result discussion conclusion. What I suggest you, how about you start from the format of the publication arena, journal or conference in which you are going to submit your work. And that could be a very good example. So you know that this is where you need to be submitted, everything is there. So thinking of the publication venue, check again the journal or conferences you're focusing on. They allow the literature reviews or not. Because in some journal or conferences, they only do allow some research works. They don't allow literature reviews. So you have to be careful if those journal or conferences they are receiving the literature review paper. One good example is you look into the related literature review papers and then check their venues where they have published the work, and then you can think of submitting a paper there. Search for the main venues of the primary studies. So if you go to the web pages of the venue and search for any particular data, so such as um, venue scope or even the publication type, is there any templates of the manuscript or even literature review rules and regulations. Um, so Springer, as an example, they have lots of them to have a look. They have a lot of track series, so you can just look into their journals. There are, of course, other journals that in your field that you can focus on. Paper format, again, I am working on Word particularly. But I mean, people are of course working on LaTeX overleaf. You can check again with the publishers um, how you're going to, if they're accepting the LaTeX or the Word or the PDF version of those. Yeah. Again, recommending this to all of you. Publish your work into the open access platform. Zenodo, it's pretty much popular in Europe, where you can upload your work um, so that all the people can see your work. They can cite your work, or even Mendeley as well. You can link your work to your profile, such as you can use OrgID, ResearchGate, Academia, Google Scholar. Um, if there is any presentation slides share.net YouTube channel, that you can. I have been quite lazy with the some of my presentation slides, but it looks like after reading the slides, this slide again, I need to be adding some of my papers to the Zenodo as well. Maybe the slide shares as well, or even the ResearchGate. So thanks very much. This was sort of the pretty much the end of the lecture of the course program, Personal Literature Study, which was particularly designed for the doctoral students at LUT University. And you have been so much nice. And let's meet again on 10th of December for the doing the workshop. So peer reviewing each other work, where we will be discussing and talking how we have been going through. I am now stopping the lecture recording, and then we'll have some in-person, person-to-person conversations. Thank you very much.